Hello and welcome to the Mental Health Gaming Podcast. Once again, I am Bradley, and joining me this week, look, he got an assistant last week to try and help with some editing, and to be honest, the assistant was so much better. So, Stu, how you doing, Stu?
Oh, great. That's going to make me look like I can't edit properly. Thanks for that.
Right, just for clarification.
Yeah, but even that was better than the robot assistant last week.
Yeah, so Stu got a bit of software that supposedly gets rid of some of the ers and ums, but I broke it with just the way I talk. So we decided, we're not going to do that this week. We'll just let Stu go for it himself.
Yeah, only takes about 6 or 7 hours. It's no problem.
Yeah, more of the story, don't trust robots.
Well, there's that as well, yeah.
Thanks for the articulation lessons, by the way, Stu. I really appreciate it. I mean, it's totally unneeded and had nothing to do with anything, but there you go.
Yeah, well, you know, I'm quite pompous and arrogant like that, so...
But yeah, no, hopefully this week's recording sounds a lot better for everyone. Well, bar the fact I'll be talking, but, you know.
Yeah, and me, yeah.
Do you know what else we should talk about?
What should we talk about?
Let's talk about politics. No, let's talk video games.
Probably for the best.
Yes. For obvious reasons that will become clear if you listen to an upcoming special we have. I've only played 2 games this week. But as usual, do you want me to go first or do you want to go first? How many you got?
You go first, because I've not got much this week.
Oh, okay. You've been busy.
Nope. I've been lazy.
Yeah, same difference. I spent... We recorded at about 12:30 on was it a Thursday today? I'm not going to lie, I've had one of those days where kids got dropped off at school. I laid down for a 5-minute nap at about 9, and it's now 12:30. So, you know. Yeah.
Nice.
Anyway, we were meant to be talking about games. I've managed to put that off for a minute already. So, the first game I've been playing is a game called Norco, which is from Raw Fury and made by a company called Geography of Robots. And this is a genre I've been getting into a lot recently. I don't know if it's because it's slower paced and my tastes have changed and I can cope with this sort of pacing games if I'm having trouble with my vision and stuff like that. But it's a basic point and click. Very narrative driven. All the usual things you'd expect in a modern day point and click adventure. But what I really like about Norco is a couple of things. One is its beautiful art style. The things they could do with pixel art these days is absolutely sublime. It just looks beautiful. And the other one is its setting. Someone can correct me if I'm wrong. I'll let you have a little search in the notes if you need to, Stu. But I don't think I've ever seen a game set in South Louisiana, New Orleans, before. This is one that the setting is just beautiful as well. It's sort of semi-post-apocalyptic, so Louisiana is kind of sinking because of various world events and what have you. Probably not too far from where the future is, but there you go. And you play a character whose brother's gone missing, and you set out to try and find them. And this is all what happens after your mother's death, and a few other little things happen. And the game starts out very, very simple, very basic mechanics to drive the narrative forward. And then it kind of goes places. So because it's set in the future, it's very sci-fi inspired. There's a mixture of the old and new, and it comes together really well. But the story kind of goes multi-generational as it progresses forward. And I don't want to say too much because it's not a twist, but you need to have the impact of it as you're playing it. What it's doing with what I think a lot of these point-and-click stories do, and no offence to the Monkey Island games of the past and Day of the Tentacle, things like that, the narrative of of games these days in the point and click genre have come on so much. I loved Monkey Island, I loved Sam and Max, I thought they were wonderful, quaint games, but the narratives were very video gamey. Whereas now, I think the narratives in these sort of games are the closest we're getting to something that can be considered literature worthy. And this is one of them. The story has engrossed me as a sci-fi type thing. I think it is absolutely wonderful. And what they do really well in this is the point and click side of things isn't the main draw of the game. So it's not doing anything clever with the point and click to try and draw you in. It's gone, this is our story. This is the story we want to tell. You're going to get through it. And it wants to tell you a story. And I think that's very important. If you've got a narrative-based point and click, the point and click stuff shouldn't get in the way. If you want a puzzle-based point and click, fine, do you know what? Make it as convoluted as possible. But when it's narrative-based, a few light puzzles here and there to keep you interested is good. But the story here, it's outstanding. And I would say so far this year, it's probably the best story-based thing I've played. It's up there with... Do you remember me last year mentioning Lacuna?
Yeah, played it myself.
And I thought that... I thought that was a really interesting, well-told story. It's better than that. I think it tells a better story than the likes of The Last of Us. Just really, really good. I didn't notice any obvious accessibility options, but at the same time, I didn't notice them because it didn't need them. It looked like everything it needed was kind of baked into the game itself. So I didn't struggle. The text is overall... The stuff you need to read is bright and it's readable. And it's only when it becomes historical text does it go to like this weird browny colour on black. But it's light text on dark backgrounds and stuff like that. And the pixelated imagery is easily viewable. There's some bright areas, but it's not anything that's stopping you playing. It doesn't need to change because overall the balance, the contrast of the visuals is spot on. The UI really, really good, and the story is so damn good. I highly recommend this one.
Sweet, yeah. No, 3 points on this. First off, I don't know how people can get bored of pixel art. Well, if it was poor, yeah, but it's like saying, "God, I'm bored of Picasso," or I'm bored of Rembrandt. It's no, because if you don't like that style, you don't like it. But I don't know how you can get bored of something that you do like when it's done with such skill, Yeah. And most of these releases have got really fantastic pixel art. If you don't like that style, fine. If you do like that style, then this looks like a particularly good one. Yeah. So that's cool. Secondly, Louisiana, yep. Walking Dead Saints and Sinners that I talked about a few months ago. That's set in New Orleans, and also when it's sinking, I think it has a similar sort of, theory that it's going into the swamp. Yes. Year by year.
But, the bayou it's definitely taking over.
Yeah. But no, it's not been used a lot in gaming, I don't think. So it's definitely nice to have a revisit, and there's not going to be much crossover between the type of people who play Norco as a point and click adventure and VR gamers playing the Saints and Sinners and stabbing zombies in the head. So no. I don't think it's oversaturated. And my third point is that if anyone ever needs a good argument for why Twitch is great, beyond the classic, well, why would you want to watch people play when you could play yourself? It's like, well, why do you watch footy? Also, you could apply that to Norco. I really like the look of this, but I would never really play it because they're not my type of games. But I would very happily either watch somebody else play it or watch a playback of it because it's fascinating to me, and I think that's a really good way to spend my time. I probably took myself in bed tonight and stick on a full playthrough of this and just start watching it in chunks.
Yeah, no, you totally can. You're right with point and click. I've done that with a couple where I think I can't get on with the gameplay. There's been a couple in the past I cannot get on with the gameplay at all, and I watch it on Twitch. or a YouTube playthrough or whatever. And yeah, it is like, I suppose, an audio book or a movie in that way. Just someone else is playing it for you. You could go and make the movie yourself or write the book yourself, but at the same time, there's options for you to do it in other ways. And yeah, it's really, really good. Honestly, I don't know how many hours this is because I do not play these games like they should be played, so to speak. So I pick it up, I'll play it for 5 minutes, pop it down, do something, pick it up again, maybe another 5-10 minutes. So what might take someone half an hour could take me a good day to play, or I can then barge through 3 hours in one sitting. So I played this over the course of a week. Don't know how many hours I spent on it.
Yeah, and it's important, I think, to know how long these things take. I constantly use howlongtobeat.com.
Yeah.
Because it really, really impacts my decision-making process. And obviously it's not going to on an arcade game. So, like, Ninja Saviors that I played not long ago, it's an arcade game. I'm not going to worry about whether it's 2 hours or 5 hours. But when I played that Monster Hunter Stories 2... Before I bought it, I checked that it wasn't going to be 100 hours just to do the story. And it said it was 25, 30 hours. I was like, oh, yeah, no, that's great. It's like once it starts getting over 50, that becomes a bit of a problem. So, yeah, no, I constantly do that, and I totally understand. It totally informs my buying choice.
Yeah, so, I mean, obviously, I had my notes written down. I haven't just gone to the site just to double check. 5.5 hours for the main story, 7 hours if you want to do the extras, it says, 9.5 hours completionist. Not going to lie, I only did the main story. I generally don't, with story games, go and do all the extras because I just, this is my path, and that's what I want that experience to be. And that sounds about right. Across a week, about an hour a day in total of actually playing. I'd say it probably took me 6 or so hours of actual main story because I don't play fast anyway. So yeah, easily some people could knock this out in a couple of days and get a really good book's worth out of it.
Yeah, I'm sure that's right. Yeah, no, it's a great genre when it's done well. I think it's done well quite often because the people developing for it are clearly not going into it for the money or the fame. They're passion projects most of the time, these things. And I think it's really cool.
Yep. So, moving on, what have you been playing, Stu?
Well, only one this week, really. And the reason for that is, well, twofold. One is, kind of a lack of time. Two, I kind of wanted to have as few screens as possible over the weekend because what happened was, I've been unwell and my wife's been unwell, and we were frustrated and bored out of our minds because of not being able to go to all the places we wanted to go.
And obviously you got to prepare to resurrect on the Sunday.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Yeah. Roll away the stone and all that caper. Yeah. But, so I wanted to force myself to do some other stuff, so I didn't play games as much as I normally would and did other things. But yesterday I was like, I really want to have a Switch game. I really want to have a sit down and play something on Switch so I can just play it. And I had a look through what was on sale because I'm cheap. And what I found, well, first off, I found lots of the Doom, lots of the games for $1.99 on sale, and I was like, that's really good. That's
original Doom, I assume.
Yeah, well, yeah, and more. Well, not at the $1.99 price point, but yeah. And I was like, I really fancy one of these. I'm going to look through and see which one I'm definitely going to pull the trigger on. Shall I go back to playing the originals again? I've never played Doom 64. Shall I give that a whirl? Is 2016 version cheap enough to play to see what it's like technically? Blah, 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 blah. Anyway, kept scrolling through and found the Doom Slayers collection for $23.99. I already had 3 or 4 quid kind of banked on, Nintendo. And so I was like 20 quid for Doom 1, Doom 2, Doom 3, Doom 64 and Doom 2016. And I was just like, whoa, yeah, I am totally having that. So that's what I bought. And I've been playing the first game and already put, 3 or 4 hours into it so far. It's just so good. The game just doesn't age. it just doesn't. Especially now that it's got widescreen, it's clearly filtered. It's got, the controls are mapped so that it's strafe rather than turn as an automatic, and you can switch them back to the original if you want. But, and the gameplay itself is just timeless. It's, I've very, very rarely, and possibly never, come across a game series that has that sort of pace. Has a pace of an arcade shooter done as an FPS. But the levels are designed as, fully immersive, mysterious, environmental puzzles as well.
Yeah.
It just never happens because it requires so much skill, talent, time, and also I think obviously that break into the market in the early 2000s of the COD style of it being a kind of a narrative shooter where everything's funneled and tunneled for you into a storyline, and everything's very corridor based, even if it doesn't look like it is. And that took over, and it kind of killed off the Doom thing. But it's just so good, and when you if you transpose the action in your brain from 3D to 2D and think of it as like a 2D game, it is very much like a 2D side-scrolling shooter and a run and gun, like Contra or something like that.
Yeah.
Very, very much like Contra and its ilk. And that's what I wanted at the time, and apparently still do now. And I think they moved it on brilliantly with Doom 2016 as well, so I'm looking forward to seeing how the Switch copes with it. But a fantastic package to buy, really comparatively cheap for those classics. If you want to, if you've got the right type of Switch, which I now have, you can just hook it up to your monitor or your telly and play them, as God intended, but works perfectly well on handheld as well. Just a brilliant package to have bought, really.
I think with Doom, the original Doom, it's up there with Tetris and Super Mario and the likes of. These are the blueprints for all of future gaming.
Yeah.
Doom is special. I love the idea. People have tried to get Doom to run on everything from calculators to toasters and what have you. I think it's an absolute piece of genius, coding that it can be done and be playable on the most bizarre of things. And it's still, every time I play it, I'll pop back to it, say at most once a year. I'll pop back to it and play through some of it. Sometimes I'll go a couple of years without touching it, but it still feels modern. Every time you play it, it still feels like a modern game. It doesn't feel like something that should be left in the past and appreciated. And I think that goes, again, with Tetris and Mario Brothers. None of those games feel like old games at all, even in their original forms. And Doom... I could wax lyrical about Doom for a long, long time. I'm not good at FPS games on the whole, but Doom I absolutely adore. And it's the only FPS I've properly completed, I think. I've beaten Call of Duty, don't get me wrong. But Doom I've managed to beat just once, on the hardest difficulty. And I've never done that with an FPS before. I generally play it on the second level, which I can't ever remember what it's called now, the second difficulty. But yeah, I absolutely adore it. Absolutely adore it. And you're tempting me to go and pick it up and play again on my deck. Oh yeah, I might play it on the deck.
Well, there you go. You see, you can play it for free on the deck. I'm pretty confident that would be like a platinum rated, straight away play kind of thing.
Yeah, I think I own it on Steam somewhere anyway, possibly, who knows, but I'm gonna play it.
Yeah, I just meant that it would be rated for Linux. God, the word dropped out of my head. It'd be rated for Linux, so you can play it immediately on deck without having to faff around.
That'd be hilarious if you could play it on everything, but it couldn't play on deck.
I know. Yeah, but because of that desire for it to run on everything, that'll have been one of the first things they got it converted. And the most recent thing that I saw it running on was a pregnancy testing kit.
Yes.
A digital pregnancy testing kit.
I can't wait. I actually thought, when we eventually get like human implants and stuff like that. So like you're playing everything in your brain. It's all done. Yeah, Doom, please. Literally hook it into my veins.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it's like you mentioned with Super Mario. Well, even that's not quite the same, but pretty much the same. Is like what it feels like they've done, and I'm not sure this is the case, but they went, right, okay, well, we want to make an adventure, and we want to. I've got these ideas for this theme, for all these creatures, and for all these ways that you can explore the environment, and therefore it's going to fall into looking something like this. And most games aren't produced like that. Most games are like, we're going to make an FPS and we're going to do a platform game and. Whereas I feel like Mario, still to this day, is like, we're going to do these things with Mario. Let's see if that becomes 2D platformer, something in 3D on the 3DS, whether it's going to be fully 3D adventure, whether it's going to be a pseudo 3D thing. They're just like, I want to tell this story. I want the gamer to be able to interact in these exciting ways with these characters I've thought up. This is how it'll end up being, and then they'll iterate on that, and it will become this thing that's just genius. And I think that some of the really outstanding games throughout time just have done that. Like, Resident Evil, it's kind of like we want the fixed camera thing because it's just scary, and Devil May Cry because we want, again, slightly fixed cameras with some not, but we want to have an action adventure where you can see all around you, and it's one of those games that it's just defines the way things play without fitting into a pre-existing template.
Yeah, no, definitely. And completely unlike us, I'm just going to quickly make a quick aside. With regards to Mario, this might be somewhat controversial, but it is obviously one of my favourite games. It's nigh on flawless, but it is responsible for one of my biggest pet hates in video games. And that is the hanging blocks of nothingness that are just in midair with no reason to be there.
Yeah.
And that's carried through to even most modern day platformers. It's, we need to get over to this bit, and we can't think of something we can actually decide a block will do.
Yeah.
No! Damn you, Mario.
I know, and it makes sense in that world, because it's kind of, that's part of its abstract kind of arbitrary nature. But I think
it works because, as we know with Super Mario, it takes place on a stage.
Well, that's right. You find out in Mario 3, don't you?
Yes.
So
you do. So that does make sense. Sorry, my kitten's attacking my headset. There we go.
Oh, such a cute kitten.
He's a cheeky little thing.
Well, I've seen the pictures and the videos. It looks very, very cute.
He's very cute. And you'll be if you don't like cats, then probably unsubscribe. No, don't unsubscribe from our Twitter, obviously. Please don't. But there will be probably plenty of videos and pictures of him as we go.
Excellent. So what's up next from you then?
Oh yeah, video games. So I've not really got a game of the week this week because both games I've played I've really, really enjoyed. Which is, so don't need to do the little stinger this week. I know you spent ages making that.
I'm really tempted to make one now that says not the game of the week or close to being the game of the week or something like that.
Well, they both are. There you go. They're both my game of the week.
Awesome.
So the other one I've been playing it's a bog standard action roguelite, and it's called Ember Knights. It's in early access on Steam at the moment. And basically you play a character who is like this called, I don't know if it's called Ember Knight or whatever. Basically it's this like spark type thing, this flame, and you have to go and save the world against a sorcerer, like this evil sorcerer thing called Praxis. And there's loads of enemies. You go through various different rooms, a la Hades and games like that. It's perfectly serviceable. If you don't like roguelites, you're not going to find anything in this. If you do like them, you'll enjoy it. It's by the numbers on the whole. It definitely does that thing of the first few rounds you play, you'll last a couple of minutes, you'll die, you'll get some resources, you can level up, you suddenly get a bit better, you go further. and it develops you that way. It lacks the charm of Hades. I sound like I really don't like this game, but I do. It lacks the charm of Hades in the way it tells a story. But it's tried to do that thing Hades does, but it just doesn't quite work as well. Thankfully, it doesn't need to, because I actually really enjoy the combat on this. It's very simple. You've got a dodge mechanic. You've got one weapon to start with. You can upgrade that weapon, get various different power-ups and relics that will give passive or active, depending on what ones you get. You do get a secondary long-range weapon. And again, you can then mix and match. You can do all that as you go. And yeah, it's really good. It's 1 to 4 players. I've only been able to play this in single player, and it's perfectly playable in single player. I've never really played a roguelite in multiplayer before co-op, so I'm not sure how well that will do, but it does what it needs to do in single player. And I think most runs I've unlocked something new, so it keeps it fresh and it makes you want to go back in again. Pacing wise, it's good. Each room doesn't get progressively more difficult in terms of adding more enemies and more enemy types. You might actually go through a run where the rooms settle down a bit and allow you to get used to things before ramping up again. So it's got a really interesting pacing to it. And I say, when you get the different relics that you can equip throughout your runs as well, it changes up the play as well. It uses, I suppose that's the way I'd say it is, it kind of uses different earth elements. So there's ice, there's fire, etc., etc. And it brings all those together. And like a lot of these games, it's about finding the right synergy for your own style. And yeah, it does that really, really well. It's not doing anything new, and it doesn't need to do anything new. It's not Hades, but if you've finished Hades and you're looking for something else to play, yeah, go for this. And the bosses are good as well, by the way. Just to point out, I really enjoy taking on the bosses on this. I've played some before where you get there and you just go, what? This is a boss, and I've got no clue how to do this. Whereas this one, it kind of introduces you to bosses well. I can't explain fully what the differences are between other games and this, but I felt like with this, the bosses were an event, and I was able to go into them and work them out before it slaughtered me, which I thought was a nice change of pace as well. But yeah, really, really good. Really interesting game. Enjoying it. Stuck a good few hours on it. Again, on the Steam Deck, it's one of those, it's not officially supported yet, probably because it's early access or anything, but plays perfectly well, and it's a great one to pick up, pop on, play for 10 minutes, and then put it down. I think it took about a minute from booting the game up to starting a run. So, ideal pick up and play stuff. And we can do that on a PC now.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, it's funny with roguelites and roguelikes. I kind of go back and forth on them. And, if you take what I'm doing with Viewpoint to try and complete that on 1 credit, each level lasts about 3 minutes and there are 6 levels. So if I'm doing quote unquote a run, then I can get now to the end of level 3, and that's a time investment of 15 minutes, and I expect getting a 1 credit completion on it is going to take me in total probably about 10 hours. Now with roguelikes, they're kind of 10 hours is what you often put into completing the first couple of levels, and the difficulty tends to be so high in a lot of them that you're going to see those levels that take a very long period of time over and over and over again. And I think it has to have a click. It has to have something in it that really justifies spending that much time seeing those same levels over and over again and doing the same things over and over again to pay off that time investment. And some of them do. I just think that the majority of them, well, certainly for me, they don't.
No, I agree. I agree with you. Hades is a prime example that feels fresh every single time you go into it, and you look forward to going into it. I have played others where, you kind of, I've got to get through this bit again to get to. Whereas this, it's erring towards the side of Hades, where The first room generally is identical, so there's like 4 or 5 enemies just to get rid. It takes a matter of seconds, and then you branch off until you get your first in-game, in-run relic, and then it changes things up. But those first initial 2 or 3 rooms take all of a minute in total, if that, to get through. So it does that onboarding each run quite well. It knows you want to get through them, and then it starts ramping up the difficulty. But that's when it then changes. You don't feel like at any point you're going, oh, this bit again. And I think that, as you mentioned, that's the important thing with a roguelite, that it does that. First part has to be spot on, because if it's not, you've lost a player.
Yeah, totally. I agree.
But yeah, that's that really. Not been playing much else that's new anyway. And if you want to find out what I'm talking about, I'm going to shut up now. You will find out in another episode.
Indeed. Very cool. So yeah, I mean, apart from that, I've been doing a load of modding this week, and that takes up an awful lot of time. It's really worthwhile, but I was also trying to do a fix, and I thought I'd done the fix, and the fix didn't stick, so it was a not stick fix, so it's still bust. And that's for a Neo Geo, which it's quite an expensive machine, so
yes,
that's frustrating. I'm waiting some parts to arrive so I can finally get it properly fixed up. But these things take time. You have to be patient,
which is why I don't do it.
No, a lot of people don't. Which is fair enough. Anyway, apart from that, look forward to the special that we're going to do. Look out for that one. That'll be up soon as well. But in the meantime, follow us on all the socials. Join us on Discord if you want to chat about anything. And in the meantime, stay safe and stay sane.